News at Noon starts now.
Well, right now at noon, Washington County murder suspect Kacey Jennings is in court for a pretrial hearing. We have the latest from the courthouse. And local school districts are asking voters to approve a proposed millage increase in the March 3rd election. We break down what voters can expect to see on the ballot. Well, thank you so much for joining us here on your 5 News at Noon. I'm Tiffany Lee here with Noah Simmons, where Noah, not too bad outside. It's warm but windy, which is kind of creating that burn ban situation.
A little bit of some burn bans across the area, also a little bit of elevated fire danger. Other than that, I mean, it's a very warm, breezy day, very warm for February standards. Let's kind of get right into it. And who's kind of seeing some of that elevated fire danger? This is actually kind of put out by the Storm Prediction Center. Yes, they do severe weather outlooks, they do excessive rain and flood outlooks, but they also do fire weather outlooks. And usually we don't show this a whole lot, but on a day like today where it's been very dry recently, we have dry relative humidities, very breezy winds, warm temperatures, all of that combined, it leads to some elevated fire danger from, places like Poto all the way up to about Eureka Springs, and then even have some critical fire danger and fire weather possible in places like Delaware, Adair County, even to northwestern Benton County. So that elevated fire danger, overall, it's going to be a combination of those warm temperatures. We're forecasting highs well into the 70s in parts of the River Valley. I think more lower to middle 70s in northwest Arkansas, but so when you combine those lower relative humidity values in the upper teens in a place like Poto, Van Buren, relative humidity values at 23, 24% in Fayetteville, Bentonville, I mean, very low humidity out there. And then you combine that on top of that with the very strong winds. I mean, look at our wind gusts, gusting up to 40 miles an hour in Van Buren, Fort Smith, 37 miles an hour in Fayetteville. So we get very dry fuels out there, very strong winds. Make sure you dispose of any cigarettes properly. Maybe you shouldn't throw them out the window to begin with, but especially on a day like today, it's going to be leading to some of those potentially fire weather conditions out there. The winds are going to be pretty breezy here. These are sustained winds, not wind gusts. Wind gusts are going to be much higher than this. Sustained winds throughout the afternoon are pretty strong. Luckily, they kind of die off once we get to the evening, but we'll certainly talk about some of those red flag warnings in place as well as those burn bans and talk more about what to expect for the upcoming weekend.
All right, thanks for that, Noah. Well, happening right now, murder suspect Kacey Jennings is appearing in Washington County Court for a pretrial hearing. Jennings is charged with capital murder in connection with the 2022 death of his ex-girlfriend, Allison Castro. 5 News reporter Bo Russell has been in the courtroom throughout the morning tracking the latest. Bo, what's the latest?
Hey, Tiffany. Well, like you said, this is a pretrial hearing. I'm going to talk a little bit quieter because it's still going on in the courtroom right behind me. Now, in this pretrial hearing, they were addressing motions and a suppression hearing. We'll start with the motions. Motions that are being addressed today were filed by defense attorneys for Mr. Jennings. Now, Jennings had up until recently, he was going to defend himself, but that's highly irregular as this is a capital murder trial and he is facing the death penalty as a punishment. So Judge Joanna Taylor said that's not going to happen. They appointed him public defenders. Among those public defenders is Jeff Rosenzweig, who's known for defending capital murder cases, specifically fighting the death penalty. Now, among the motions presented in court today were a number of motions to have the death penalty removed from this case as a possible punishment. All of those motions were either withdrawn or denied. So the death penalty as of today is still on the table in this case. There were about 10 motions presented today. Now let's move to the suppression side of the hearing. So what's happening right now, this hearing is set to run through the rest of the day and even into tomorrow. They are calling forward witnesses and presenting evidence in this case that can be considered to use in trial. So essentially we're hearing witness testimony right now, and then the judge, Joanna Taylor, will decide if it's going to be admissible come that court date that's set right now for early June. Now, again, it's still going on right now. When I left, one of Jennings' roommates was giving their testimony. We heard from a law enforcement officer who initially arrived on the scene when Jennings was reported to be overdosing. So we heard that. We're hearing from roommates now. Again, this is expected to continue late into the day, so I'll have updates as they become available. Live at the Washington County Courthouse, covering news where you live, I'm Bo Russell, 5 News.
Thanks for the update, Bo. Well, Moffett Schools is closed as a precaution today after the Sequoia County Sheriff's Office says that it is investigating a shooting threat towards Moffett School. The Sheriff's Office says someone posted a comment on social media indicating that they would shoot up the school on February 24th. Officials say the FBI, Arkansas State Police, and Fort Smith Police helped to locate and identify the author of the post. However, they're not releasing the person's name due to their age. The sheriff's office says that there is no credible threat to students or staff right now. And today, Washington County Judge Patrick Deakins will give the annual State of the County address. He will speak during the quorum court meeting that will start at 6 tonight at the county courthouse. A spokesperson for the county says that Deakins will talk about accomplishments, efforts to manage county resources, and goals for the future. Well, local school districts are asking voters to approve a proposed millage increase in the March 3rd election. In addition to candidates running for political office, ballots in Arkansas can feature annual school elections for mills, a type of property tax that provides funding for schools. 5 News reporter Claire Everbach explains what Greenland and Farmington residents will see on their ballots in March.
Greenland and Farmington schools are both asking for a 2 mil increase ahead of the March 3rd election. Under Arkansas state law, schools are required to levy at least 25 mills, but are able to ask voters for additional mill requests for school improvements. Greenland Superintendent Dr. Andrea Martin says if voters approve the millage increase, the impact for taxpayers would be minimal. For example, someone with maximum $500,000 worth of property in Greenland would pay about $8 more a month. She says the district plans to use the funding for maintenance and facility improvements, including plumbing, electrical upgrades, roof repairs, and constructions of a new academic center. In Farmington, Superintendent John LaFoon says the proposed increase would help build a new junior high school. The district previously requested a 4 mil increase, but has lowered that request to 2 mills this year. Farmington says it's one of the fastest growing districts in Arkansas, with enrollment projected to reach 4,000 students by 2029. Both superintendents say the goal is to make sure students have the best possible environment to succeed.
We're using our old gym right now all day long for classes, and those spaces aren't conditioned. And so just providing these updates will help kids have a better focus, love where they're at, and enjoy their spaces that they're learning in.
We've worked hard to keep our district in great condition. I think if you come to our facilities, you see that we have some of the nicer facilities in the region, and we just want to continue to provide that for our students, provide them the best academic facilities in the region.
Greenland and Farmington have proposed mill increases in prior elections, but they have failed to pass. And after community feedback, Greenland will also be hosting a public community meeting on February 23rd for voters to ask questions and address any concerns that they may have. In Greenland, covering news where you live, Claire Everbach, 5 News.
Thanks for that, Claire. Well, this morning, President Trump held the first meeting of his Board of Peace. It was created following the ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas. It comes as CBS News has learned that he's weighing possible new military action against Iran as soon as this weekend, but no decisions have been made. Natalie Brand has more details from the White House.
I think we have to smile. A lot of good things.
President Trump convened an inaugural Board of Peace meeting in Washington, D.C. Thursday morning with at least 24 countries represented.
We've done the biggest thing of all. We have peace in the Middle East right now.
The president also announced that member states have pledged more than $7 billion for humanitarian aid and reconstruction in Gaza.
When you set aside weapons and killing and destruction and invest in your people and invest in prosperity, it can create great things.
The meeting comes as President Trump weighs action against Iran. Sources tell CBS News top national security officials have told the president the military is ready for potential strikes as soon as this weekend.
They cannot continue to threaten the stability of the entire region.
But sources say the timeline is likely to extend beyond the weekend and that President Trump has not yet made a final decision.
They must make a deal, or if that doesn't happen, I maybe can understand. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But bad things will happen if it doesn't.
As part of a massive military buildup, a second aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald Ford, is on its way to the Middle East. All U.S. forces deployed to the region are expected to be in place by mid-March. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.